So FFP, financial fair play, or profit and sustainability rules for the Premier League, or whatever they're going to call it throughout UEFA. This is my take on it. Now, supporters of smaller clubs tend to go on about how FFP is designed to keep the big clubs big and stop the little ones from emerging, from getting a financial benefactor that can actually challenge them. Now, in theory, they're sort of right, but this is why they're actually wrong. One thing to remember now, right? There's a lot of people talking about money, football, business. Football's a sport first, before it's a business. And that's the one thing people have to understand. Now, if you've got rich owners, it automatically makes you the richest club in the world. No, it does not. Because this is how I see the reason why FFP was brought in. And it's all around what's known as financial doping. Although financial doping officially isn't really a thing, it's not like doping in individual sports, but funny enough, I'm going to take you to an individual sport to put forward the sporting comparison. Now, the sporting comparison for me is if you look at football, and let's pluck a team from the Premier League, sort of bottom-end Premier League, say someone like Bournemouth. Right, so Bournemouth are sitting there thinking, we'd like to win the Premier League one day. As it stands, we'll never do that. Probably not, but Bournemouth, if they don't win the Premier League, tough. Because you look at the 100-metre sprint at the time where you've had Usain Bolt. Now, Usain Bolt is faster than everybody. So when it comes to the Olympics, you're there as a professional athlete. You're a 100-metre sprinter. You compete in like European World Championships and things like that. And you're sort of in and around the finalists and everything. You're good at what you do, but you're not Usain Bolt, but you'd like to beat him. So how do you beat Usain Bolt? You train as much as you can. You might catch him on a really off day where he has a really poor start, and you might just edge him on that one occasion. Like Leicester winning the Premier League. I know it's a 100-metre sprint lasts 10 seconds. Premier League season lasts 10 months, more or less. If you look at this individual, you're an individual, let's just say you're a white British sprinter, and it's like you're never ever going to compete with these people. Unfortunately, that's life. That's tough luck. If Usain Bolt's going to beat you all the time, it's because he's better than you. And there's nothing really you can do about it. Unless you inject yourself with something that's going to give you an advantage, which is illegal, obviously. So a performance-enhancing drug will push you along and allow you to compete with Usain Bolt. Won't guarantee that you'll beat him, but it'll give you a better chance than if you didn't inject yourself. You go and take this principle back to football. You inject Bournemouth with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds, like Man City have been injected with hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds illegally. 115 charges, when that comes to fruition, that's going to change the face of football and prevent anything like this ever happening, which is great news. So Bournemouth get hundreds and hundreds of millions. They build a big stadium, a big training facility, big youth academy. Now, you understand, investing in your facilities, you can sort of understand that. But when you're investing into that playing squad, all of a sudden Bournemouth are going to buy this £100 million player, this £50 million player, this £80 million player, throw them into my team, and I'm going to force my way up towards the top. Now, that's the dream for all these smaller clubs. And you tend to find that people who dislike the clubs in and around Man City are supporting Man City, and Newcastle fans are in support of abolishing the FFP rules. But smaller club supporters like to think that this possibility is there. So let's just say you're Bournemouth and you've bought all these players and you're going to fight for the top four, a bit like Newcastle have done. But Newcastle have done it right, to be fair to them. And they've shown that you can spend wisely and still compete. But so we're going back to our Bournemouth analogy now, and Bournemouth are going to fight for the top. Now, considering there's already a big six, Liverpool, Man City, Man United, Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham, then you got your in and around the big six, Newcastle, West Ham, Aston Villa, Brighton, you can say now as well. Everton have always been a club that's wanted to challenge up that top end as well. And then you've got all the other clubs in the Premier League, like your Wolves, your Fulham, your Brentfords of the world, and others that I know I would have missed plenty of others. But so this money has allowed you to jump over those clubs to get in and amongst those top six. You've jumped over Aston Villa, you've jumped over Brighton, people who, clubs who've earned their way up to the top. You've jumped over West Ham, earned their way to the top. Jumped over Newcastle, they've got money, but not so much money that they're breaking any rules. You've jumped over all them to get up towards the top. Now tell me, is that fair to all those clubs that you've jumped over? Now considering now, you're this Bournemouth fan, Bournemouth don't have that money, but Brentford, who are underneath you, get that money, and they jump over you. Is that fair to you? No. So, for me, you throw money into a football club, you're getting an unfair advantage over the rest of the playing field. And in sport, that's unfair. You cannot get an advantage you cannot get something that no one else is entitled to give you an advantage over somebody else in sport, because it's wrong. Like I say, the doping rules exist in all these other sports. If you inject yourself as an individual, as a football player, you'll get banned. So what's the difference with a club injecting themselves with money that no one else has access to? Another thing then as well is the way that money is put into a football club. Now, people seem to think, I've got this conception, you can just put money in. No. The rules are that football money can only be put in by means of a return on share capital or as a loan. So that's why Man City are in the shit, because they've managed to skirt around all that through dodgy sponsorship deals and fake companies paying bills and things like that. So that's why they're in the shit, if you must know. But do a bit of research on them. But that's my take on FFP, why FFP is good and why it should stay, and why football will be a fairer sport. And if you're not as big as the big clubs, that's tough, because there's always going to be someone out there that's better than you, unless you are the greatest club in the world, like someone like a Real Madrid, who are always going to be up the very top. But even then, they don't win everything every year. It's life.